Okay.
Parts to change, because that's the only way that you change policy. Policy only works if it changes the pathway, change the narrative, to change how they think.
Okay, we are live. Claudia, do you want to begin?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. And thank you to coming and being in attendance wherever you are this morning. Thank you for joining us in the Global Cleveland's 2021's International Sister Cities Conference. My name is Claudia O'Brien, and I'm a board member for the Global Cleveland. Before I would like to begin, I would like to thank our sponsors who are critical in making this conference happen: Swagelock, Medical Mutual, Platform Brewery, Irish, The Links, Corner 65, US Together, and 12 Literary Arts. Today, I'm pleased to introduce our International Poetry panel, where we will hear a sampling of poetry from 5 poets from Cleveland sister cities, and then a discussion of their creative process. Global Cleveland is proud to be hosting our 3rd annual Sister Cities Conference. This conference celebrates the partnerships and connections that the city of Cleveland has built with our sister cities via economic and cultural exchanges. Cleveland has held the door open to newcomers for generations, and over the last 57 years, 23 cities have joined me. Cleveland's sister city relationships broaden our perspective and abilities. We're excited to announce that next year, our 4th annual Sister City Conference will be held in person during the week of October 17th. And we cordially invite all of you to join us next year in person to experience this wonderful conference together and enjoy all of the delights that Cleveland has to offer. Today, we would also encourage you to take a chance on broadening your horizons by participating in the chance to win a trip to Italy in partnership with Italian Tours by Vienna to celebrate our 10th anniversary. The lucky winners will get to travel to our Italian sister city, Vicenza, Italy. Italian Tours by Diana is a boutique travel agency located in Rocky River, Ohio, and focuses on crafting custom to Italy. This 8-day Italian journey will introduce you to Vicenza, Venice, Florence, and Rome, and many beautiful destinations in between. You can purchase tickets on the website global.org. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for this session, who is a poet and author, Daniel Gray Contar, the executive director of Cleveland's own 12 Literary Arts. So Daniel, I am honored to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Claudia. I appreciate you. And I'm so very grateful to be joined by our literary artists, our family of literary artists from all over the planet. And I would love to take a moment to introduce each and every one of them. You're going to, I believe, hear some work from each of these poets. And then also we'll conduct a brief conversation with them as well, with questions that have been provided for us by Global Cleveland. So I believe introductions are in order here. And the first poet is Mélanie Leblanc. Mélanie Leblanc is a French poet from Normandy, France. She grew up near by the sea and the famous cliffs of Etretat. I hope I pronounced that correct. By the way, her first book's title is Cliffs. Nature is very present in her poetry. Sometimes she writes poetry in nature or in the streets. She often works with other artists and musicians because she likes when poetry meets the arts. She has translated Karen Dalton's poems in French, and her very last book is narrative poetry. Our next poet is Aliaj Koprionikar. Aliaj is a poet, literary critic, editor, and festival producer who regularly cooperates with various Slovenian and international literary organizations. His poetry debut was published in 2019 with the Greek publishing house. And in the same year, his collection was published by the Center for Slovenian Literature. Next, we have Anna Svetel. Anna works as a researcher at the Department of Ethnology and Cultural Anthropology at the University of Ljubljana. Apart from academic work, she is active also in the field of literature. Her poetry book was shortlisted for the Debut of the Year award, and in 2019, she published a collection of short stories, which was nominated for the Novo Mesto Award and warmly received among critics and readers. Both of her books have been sold out and reprinted. Next, we have Basem Awadalla, who is a freelance journalist for Al Gomhuria online newspaper, an expert Arabic writer, classical and colloquial, and many different types, such as articles, poems, social literature, literary texts, and letters, with more than 12 years of experience. As well, he's published his writings in many different printed and online newspapers and magazines, and a book in 2015. Next, and finally, we have Masada Salah el-Din, an Egyptian poet born in Alexandria. Salah el-Din was invited to participate as a poet on many seminars and cultural discussions within official events of Cairo Book Fair, as well as many conferences concerned with literature and history. His wide range of poem collections have been discussed in many literary forums and culture palace forums and workshops. Masada's writings were published in many established literary magazines and newspaper. He's also a songwriter. So if we're lucky, we may be able to even hear a song from Masada. So these are all of the poets that we are graced with today. And so I believe what we'll be able to do is perhaps go in the order that I have introduced you. So we will then, from that standpoint, Milani, if you would not mind sharing some of your work, that would be wonderful.
So
I will pass it to you.
I share it with you, but in French, there is no problem.
Thank you so much. And everyone, I'm so grateful that you're here. And if you would, please forgive my shoddy attempts at pronouncing each of your names correctly.
No
But I would
problem.
love it also if you would introduce yourselves so that everyone can get the correct pronunciation of your names. All right, thank you so much. And I'll pass it to Melanie.
It was okay, no problem. I have written several books. The first one, which were you were talking about, the first one was about cliffs. And the last one is about maize. It's Ariane, I don't know how you pronounce it. She is going inside the maze. She isn't waiting, you know, the Minotaurus and Thesey. She is going inside the maze. It's the last one, so maybe I can introduce you this one in French. And I have written several other books, which are little tiny books made by hand, handmade. This one is a wish books. You can open it by chance and there is wishes inside. I have this one too, which is a book with drawings, or maybe there is too much sun in France today. So it's always the same sentence to begin, and it's the people who dare. So maybe this one is easier because if you understand quite a little bit French, maybe you will understand it. So it's les gens qui osent for people who dare. Les gens qui osent ouvrent leurs ailes. Les gens qui osent sont souvent les fragiles, les timides, les discrets. Les gens qui osent savent que ça fait juste froid au début. Les gens qui osent, au fond, ne risquent pas grand-chose. Les gens qui osent sont belles. Les gens qui osent ouvrent des chemins. This is just a little bit. I don't know if I have more time or if you want to try this one, for example, with more words, or I stop now. How you want? I can hear
Yes,
you.
please feel free.
This
Yes.
one, okay. So it's le labyrinthe des jours, maze of the days. I will begin with the first pages. J'attends. Tout s'est ralenti après être allé si vite. Hier, fille de roi, j'avais une famille, des joies simples, un toit. Thésée est arrivé et tout a pris feu. Poussée par une force étrange, j'ai agi, trouvé des stratagèmes. Tout s'est arrangé en une nuit. Et maintenant, j'attends, le patiente, avec pour seule réalité ce fil que je lui ai donné. Je le sais à l'autre bout, vivant. Dans l'accablement du soleil, je m'y accroche, de mes deux mains. Non, je n'ai pas rêvé, non, je ne suis pas folle. Les murs m'aident à tenir, du solide, du sûr. Oui, il reviendra. Oui, le nous sera. Ces murs verront nos ombres s'unir. Ma mère l'envoûtait, le charme d'amour tel qu'elle s'est ouverte à l'animalité. Un charme aussi puissant, celui que j'attendais. Comme elle, je suis sortie de moi-même, j'ai répondu à l'appel. Je comprends désormais, de tout mon corps, que ma mère n'ait pu résister. C'est l'appel du profond, qui se rit bien de la raison.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I have some, Melanie, I have, listening to your work, I have some questions. So I have some questions that Global Cleveland has provided for me. But as I listen to your work, I may go off script a bit and ask you some questions because there are some things that I'm hearing in the work that are really inspirational for me and I think for all of us. So thank you so much for that sharing of your work. And we're going to now go to Aliaj. Aliaj, please, my friend, take it away.
Hi. So I just have a question. Are we reading entirely in our mother languages or like in English translation as well?
You know, it's a really good question. And for me, I think I'm going to leave that to you. I was able to draw so much from Melanie's work, just from the utterance. There's so much in the utterance. So I think that, you know, it challenges us to hear, even though we may not be able to understand, we're still listeners, we're still hearers. So there's that. So I leave it to you, my friend, without going too deep.
Okay, so I will do a combination. I rather have long poems. I will read two shorter ones because there is not much time. One in Slovene language, so you can listen to my mother language, and one in English translation, even though you have to excuse me, this is not my mother language, so maybe I will do some mistakes while reading it, because usually the translators are reading after I read in my mother language. So the first one in Slovene. Rozi Luxemburg, Saditi akacije v puščavi, prihajati in odhajati, ne reči ničesar, odrasti, brez sramu pred temo, oblačiti si oblačila, usta uporabljati za govor, spuščati bele zavese nežnosti, ne reči ničesar, soočiti se z oblaki in pritisniti ustnice na nebo Bruslja, na nebo Ljubljane, na nebo Grožnjana, na nebo Prage, na nebo Lizbone, na nebo Berlina, na nebo Uppsale, na nebo. Drseti pred realnostjo, z ustnicami, drhteti in dehteti na uho pred spanjem. And the English one, without title, each word has its own landscape. Air is filled with syllables. You connect the dots on the map, one hand from the future, the other one from the homesickness. The sea brings fishes full of plastic. The waves licks each other, each belonging to a different story. The window bangs in the wind. The coast is full of swinging lights. You are moving towards the destination without a name, without a given time, an hour. You assume the world went nowhere. Our latitude grows above a landfill of grassland, wetlands, and coastline. Here the shadows are filled with intact sentences. Each vowel as a murmur. How many questions does water ask, built from droplets of saliva? Each consonant as blinking. How many answers does it offer a land on the other side of the world, from shadows, from white air, waving of beautiful wolves growing into dips? These forms of psalm says, your shadow is as deep as a door open in the water, which takes your breath away. So this is it in short.
Thank you so much, Aliaj. Your work also has made me think about some essential elements of poetry that perhaps when we're listening only to our mother tongue, we are not as attuned to. So I thank you for your gift. And we will now turn to Anna. And Anna, if you could please share some of your work to add to this gumbo that we're mixing here in the digital domain.
Hello, this is Colin Derry from Global Cleveland. Anna couldn't make it, but I have a video that I'll be screen sharing, which will show 5 minutes of her reading her poetry. So I'll have that shared in 1 second. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, very good. I'll tell you what we can do while you are preparing that, Colin, is we can move to our next reader, and then we'll come right into the sharing of that video in the interest of time. Or, oh, well, maybe not. Okay, never mind. I'm unable to hear it at this time, Colin. Is there a setting?
Hello, I'll have that audio issue fixed. I forgot to hit share audio, my mistake.
Oh, I totally understand. Yes, trying to get this up as quickly as possible. I totally understand.
Hello, everyone. I'm very sorry that I cannot be with you live at this panel, but I've prepared the recordings of some of my poetry that I will begin now. First, I will read some of the poems that are part of the bigger cycle that deals with the geometrical shapes. And the first poem I'm going to read is called trikotnik, which means triangle in English. Trikotnik je tisti, ki reče, neka pravila morajo biti, ali pa dogovori so zato, da se jih držimo. Trikotnik ima zapestno uro, za eno luknjico preveč tesno zapeto. Načelnost mu veliko pomeni in nikoli se ne spomni svojih sanj. Spi sam, ker bi s svojimi 3 rezili zmeraj koga porezal. Kvadrat. Kvadrat means the square. Kvadrat je zaprisežen egalitarist. V program je zapisal, da ne bo nihče čutil krivice. Kvadrat se programa drži. Načela so načela, vztraja. Medtem, ko se skuša začeti vrteti. Osemkotnik. I don't actually know the English word for osemkotnik. It's this form with 8 angles. Osemkotnik je v bistvu neke vrste zvezda. Razširjena družina z velikim enoprostorcem in psom. Osemkotnik ne mara primerjav, monoteizma in likov z malo koti. Kadar gre na morje, plava hrbtno. Kopalci ga vztrajno zamenjujejo za lepo oblikovan list. Pozimi se oprime snežink in razmišlja o večnem krogu življenja. The next one, krog, is about the circle. Krog že dolgo ve, da se ne bo nikoli docela spoznal. Zato molči. Na pamet zna samo 5 decimalk števila pi, kar bi koga utegnilo presenetiti. Vendar krog ni cinik. Ko ga deček s prstom riše v sneg, je vidno ganjen. And the last one from this mathematics-inspired poems is točke, which means points. Točke. Rada pa bi videla tudi njih, zvezdice, raztrosane po posteljnini, dedka, ko se je rodil, njega in vse ostale dojenčke, njega in vse ostale začetke. Namesto smrti drobcen prst, namesto vsega točke. And I will end with one of my poems that is also part of the cycles, which deals with the sea, with the seascape, with coasts, with islands, and so on. And this one, as many others, is inspired by the Adriatic Sea in Croatia. Morske pesmi, prvič. Proti ničemur ne tečem, ničemur se ne približujem, le gledišče se rahlo nagiba, zdaj sem, zdaj tja. Mandlje, dreve s kamenčki, luščine so sledi prijaznih pokolov. Medtem se morje preliva v kozarce in sonce cedi kot breskev. Brodolomki sva, Martinčici v kopalkah, lezeva po skalah in gledava, nobenih mrtvih galebov in smeti, ljudskava in mahava na odprto. Valovi in veter so kot božanje, pa kot igrivo obračanje pomenov. Vsi se ves čas igramo, dolgo in zbrano se igramo. Igramo se z vsem, kar se premika, ker kar se premika je radodarno. Dokler je sonce na obzorju, ga gledam. Še malo, še čisto majcena roza pikica, še čisto majcena breskvica. Dokler traja, moram biti tu. Thank you for listening and enjoy the other poets' readings.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to Anna's poetry. It was a pleasure to have her here, even though she had difficulties come up that didn't allow her to come live. Thank you. Take it away again, Daniel.
My apologies. All right, so we're going to move forward with Basem, and looking forward to hearing your work as well, of course. Please take it away, my friend.
Sure, it's my pleasure to be here today, and thank you, Daniel, for your introduction. I'm writing down a special poetry for today. I take it the name of my poetry from our topic, the sister cities, and I write it down for my city. I'm from Alexandria in Egypt. I write it in my mother language, classic Arabic. I will translate the name of my poetry, but I will read it in Arabic. I hope that next time I take the idea from Aliash when he translates his poetry in English. A very nice idea. I will make it next time. My poetry, the title of my poetry, Alexandria, the queen of the cities. الإسكندرية يا ملكة البلاد، يا مدينة الثغر، يا مدينة الثغر، يا فارس الدهر، يرونك عروس البحر، وأراك فنار علم ومحل فخر. أمام موجك الهادر الثغر باسم، يا ساحرة القلب بك نبض حاسم، يتغنى بحسنك راقدا وقائما، فنسيمك أثير الروح والمغرم الهائم. أهداك اسمه وللقربان قدم الفؤاد، وانصهر من دلالك وصار كالرماد. أنت المحظية ومعشوقة الإسكندر، صرت بعهده درة الأماكن وملكة البلاد. أنت الروح في سماء العظماء، والجسد على أرض العلماء. الأقمار اجتمعت بمجلسك تتغذى من أنوار شمسك وينبوع الضياء. يا قرارة المعرفة والعلوم، يا قرارة المعرفة والعلوم، ضياء شمسك انقشعت لها الغيوم. صرت محيطا يفيض رقيا وثقافة، وترياق الشعوب من الجهل والسموم. العلم في عهدك قناديل نورانية، أنارت البر والبحر وطاولت السماء العلية. واعتلت عرشك سيدة المكتبات، وأصبحت مكتبة الإسكندرية. أتت لك الشعوب من كل الجهات، وأصبحت مهد الثقافات والديانات. وإن مضى الزمان وعاد، أنت العريقة بكل الحضارات. تحطمت تحت جدرانك حراب الغزاة، ورفرفت عاليا رايات الحماة. وبت للعزة والكرامة وساما، واسمك محفور بسهام الرماة. وإن خطت أجمل المدن قدماي، وانبهرت بزهوها وأضوائها عيناي. تبقين أنت مدينتي يا قطعة القلب، أذوب من ذكرك وأعود إلى صباي. كنت الجميلة الساحرة، وما زلت بالحب عامرة، حتى معابدك شهدت على قصص الحب الغابرة. وتبدل الزمان ولم يعد المكان نفس المكان. وإن أصبحت تحت الثرى، تنهضين من رقدتك، تنشدين قد آن الأوان. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't take a long time for my poetry. And I hope that you're inspired by my word. Just all of us know that if you don't know the language, but you can feel from the other languages and other cultures, a lot of things. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those words, Basem, and also for your gift. And I do think that if we do have time, I think that it will be important for us to really sort of unpack how are you uttering your words and also laying them on the page in such a way that allows us to feel. So there are methods that you use there are tools that you use in order for us to, draw from your work the feeling. I'm very much interested in what those tools are that you use. So I hope we have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that because there's some commonality between all of you in terms of the tools that you're using so that you're conveying emotion.
Sure.
So hopefully we'll get to that. So I thank you for raising that.
Thank you.
Colin, folks, you will have to let me know how we're doing on time also, given that we started a bit late. But with this in mind, we're going to go ahead and move to our final writer, Masada. Please go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Hello, my name is Maysara Salahuddin. I am a poet and a playwright from Alexandria, Egypt. And I'm very glad to be here in such a panel. And I think I am blessed to hear all of these magnificent poets from different countries all around the world. I think also maybe we can't get the real meaning of what they are saying, but I get the feeling. Because we all of us as a poems, I think we are just one nation, just nation of artists. We are all communicate by feeling before communicating by words. I will read some short poems, and I have translated also one of my poems in English. If you'd like to hear it, I will be glad to read it for you. أحكي لكم عن بحر ما بيحبش الزيادة. أحكي لكم عن أرض بتتحرك تحت ناس ما بتمشيش. أحكي لكم عن ورقة بيضة في إيدين رافضة تتعلم الكتابة. أحكي لكم ولا الكلام درجاته زي البكا فعنفوان شدته بيتقلب تجاعيد. قاعد قدام ورقة فاضية وحاسس بالرعب. ممكن تتحول لمركب وممكن تتحول لقصيدة وممكن تتحول لرسالة وممكن تتحول لمركب جواها قصيدة وفي آخرها رسالة. الفكرة دي تشبهني قوي. حطيت إيدي اليمين على كتف الشمال وحطيت إيدي الشمال على كتف اليمين وابتديت أطبطب. نزلت دمعة سخنة. المركب غرقت والقصيدة ضاعت. ما فضلش غير الرسالة. مش عايز أبعتها لحد. أوقات كتير بتعاملني زي ما أكون الشط وهي الموج. وأوقات كتير بتعاملني زي ما أكون الموج وهي الشط. في كل الأوقات ما بنقدرش نتفرق عن بعض. وما بنقدرش نتجمع غير لحظات. لكن تأثيرها بيترسب زي الملح. زي الأصداف البحرية. زي قشور السمك وعظم السلاحف. وبقايا كائنات ما بقتش موجودة بس ثابت عن نفسها دلالات. ومشاعر موجودة بس ما فيش على وجودها ولا دليل. أوقات كتير بتعاملني وأوقات كتير بعملها. لكن البحر كعادته كل ما يتورط في قصيدة بيغرق المطمن ويطمن الغرقان. I will read some short poem in English, which I have translated. Very quietly, she opened the wooden door and likely sneaked in. The room was deeply gloomy, and I was the darkest corner in the glooms. In spite of sadness, I was trembling with thought. The room was deeply gloomy. Some ghosts from my past surrounded me. So I blew out a cigarette in my mouth and I distributed the bed. The room was deeply gloomy. For so many times, I can't be brave enough to complete cutting my last retreat. Very quietly, She opened the wooden door and lightly sneaked in. I don't know what to do. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
You know, so I think at this time, I'd really love to just for us to have a conversation. And, you know, there's some questions that have been provided for me by Global Cleveland. And I just want to steer a little bit from a couple of those because your work, I didn't know, you know, how this was going to go. I didn't know if you were going to read in your native language, if you were going to read your work in English or both. We have some of all of that. It reminds me of what can sometimes be the role of the poet and of poetry. And that can sometimes be as a cultural ambassador. And I wonder if that residue of poet as cultural ambassador, if that somehow seeps into your work or into your consciousness when you are composing. Is that something that you think about? And if not, what are some of the things that you are conscious of, that you are aware of in your body as you are composing poems? Does this question make sense?
Yes, if I'm going to answer this question, it's making big sense. Actually, for me, I am writing, thinking about the feeling itself, thinking about the cultural heritage, which is built in my blood. I'm not thinking about how it's going to be translated to another language. By the way, I am also translator. I have translated many poems for great poems like Robert Frost, Langston Hughes, Sylvia Plath, and others. So I'm not thinking about how it's going to be translated because someone else is going to translate it. It is his problem. But my real concern is how to write your poem, how to put all your thoughts and feeling in these words, to explain yourself, or maybe not explain yourself, because sometimes we don't know exactly what to explain. I know what I am feeling, so I try hard to put it in the paper with words that can be convenient for me in this moment exactly. Maybe after a while I have change of thought or something, but poems is just what I'm writing in this minute. Translation is a problem for someone else if it has been translated at all. I hope I explain it well if it is for you. Thank you.
Yes, if anyone else would like to join in there, please feel free. Anyone else has a response to that? Okay.
I'm not sure about the question. Maybe it's ambassador like to foreign countries, or but for that, you know, in France, poetry is not so good considered. It's growing up really. For a few months, a few years, it's growing up, but it's not well considered at the time. So I even don't think about translation, but I will dream about translation. But nobody has translated my poetry yet, even though I have many books sold in France. When I, for example, this book has only 3 weeks, and there is lots of library with it, but it's not translated. So it's like a dream. And when I write, I'm not thinking about foreign countries, but I'm sure that poetry should be an ambassador. That, you know, when I write, I think like I am an ambassador of love, because this one, for example, is about maybe empowerment women empowerment, you know, so self-love maybe. And this one is like I was saying, is like wishes, so it's to give to people. And I think this one, for example, should be translated really easily, maybe one day.
This is a good question, and or a good conversation, because I think I'm not even necessarily thinking about translation as much as I am thinking about, are you an ambassador for things like love, as you say? Are you an ambassador? And in this way, you are uniting the countries. And so in that way, the poems are serving as ambassadors, because that whole point is to unite us through your work. So thank you for these answers. This is wonderful. I wonder, what are the other creative influences that have inspired your poetry? What are the things that inspire you to create? Maybe other genres, artistic genres that inspire your work.
Okay, I can answer this point. There is many things, Daniel, will inspire us as a poets. You know, the poetry it's came from each corner in our life. Okay, even if you live alone, your loneliness will inspire you. The beauty, the darkness, everything can inspire you. Your spiritual feelings, goodness, badness, arts, everything can inspire you. Not only as a poet, as a human. As a human, everything will inspire you, and you will. I don't remember the word. How do you will describe your feelings by your way? Even you are a poet, you are artist, accountant, in any field, but by any way you can describe your feelings. I wanted to say something about your first point, what my Sarah and Melanie answer about it. I will shortcut your point. If I'm correct, okay. If I didn't understand correctly, please correct me. When they are and you say about the translation and your point about especially how the translation of poets is important, or how to be an ambassador for your culture by poetess. Which of these points you mean?
The second.
The second, how you be an ambassador for your culture by the poetess.
Yes, and do you see that? Do you see how the poems can be that, can serve as that?
Sure. You know, all of us know very well, especially at the old heritage, how the poets it's used between the kings and all the leaders. You can send a very diplomatic message by a poet, your own poet. You are as a king, you have your team. Till now, all the leaders have a special team to write, to review the important letters and like the confidential letters, and also at the past, the poets are very important persons beside the kings and the leaders, because they are using them in some way to send their messages. That's why the poets are not just a normal ambassador. No, it's a top VIP ambassador.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. It's very well said. You're bringing us back into the history.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I understand better your question. So maybe I think in France we have a big heritage with poetry, and sometimes this heritage is really heavy, and sometimes we don't dare to write poetry because French poets are so famous, as Baudelaire, Rimbaud, Victor Hugo. I think this is poetry. I think is one of the best ambassador for French culture, of course.
So with this in mind, and thank you, Melanie, I appreciate that. So with this in mind, with poetry having the capacity to serve as an ambassador and as a way to unite the nations, given the fact that we are all speaking in different tongues, I wonder if you can share with me, what are some of the tools that you use to convey meaning? As an example, as I listened to all of your work, what I was struck by was the way in which you all used breath and space. I was able to understand meaning based on your capacity to find space, to find gaps between lines, between words, and also to find space in your breathing, in your utterance, in the way in which you breathed the poems into existence also. So this idea of space and breath are tools that you use to convey meaning. What are some other tools that you use to convey meaning, either on the page or as you're reading the work? I hope this question makes sense also, because it struck me that I was really able to find meaning based on those two things.
Perhaps I should start the talking. I think art is like a great statue. It's a very big body, and every artist, every poem all over the world is adding details at this body, the body of art. You know, Charles Baudelaire had his issues. Walt Whitman had his parts. And maybe in the future, maybe Melanie will add something, Basem will add something, Daniel will add something, myself will add something, and so on. In the global universe, now we can read and listen to poems from all over the world, from poems from the current and poems from old history. We read today for Shakespeare, of Molière, Mutanabbi, whatever, a lot of poems, we read their poems. Actually, about the rhythm, there is rhythm in poems. When someone's trying to write something, apply sometimes to the rhythm. So rhythm is one of the tools which make all of us cutting our word and breathing this way, because we are simulating the rhythm which we write using it. Music is one of the strong tools for poems. Maybe inner music, the music inside him, which inspire his feeling, or outer music, because there's a big cooperation between poet and musicians. From many years, we write poems, it's become songs, and we write songs, it's become poems, and become part of dialogues, part of films, part of culture, heritage all over the world. So I think music also is one of the biggest tool. One of the strongest tool for poems is acting. Some of the poems is acting when they are presenting themselves and their work. This is one of the strongest tools because it's making more layers on their work and add additional feeling to the work for the audience to communicate with. In modern days, I think there is many tools. We can look at Zoom as one of the tools. Now I am a boom from Egypt and I can hear Melanie from France. I can hear you from America and so on. So modern tools, mixed media, graphic, photos, audio clips, all of these are modern tools for poets to use. And we can look at like, it's like a theater. The older poems was theater writing, they was writing the plays. So it has word, it has actors, it has scene, it has choral or chorus. So I think now we are thinking in this way. Our poems is filling with life. Many different types of elements we add to our poems to be strong and to be life. And I would like to thank you for this question. It's a very tricky question, and I have been enjoying for answer it. Thank you.
As am I. And I'm wondering, as we think about tools, I wonder also about techniques. Are there any techniques that you use to convey meaning in your work, whether it is breath or whether it is space or whatever it may be? Are there things that you use?
Again, I will explain again your question, Daniel. I think the first part before you ask about the techniques, and I want to thank my Sarah very well for his answer. He put the light in many different points, very important points. But I think the first part of your question, to convey meanings, you mean how we deliver our messages when we are reading our poetry. That I'm right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Yes. Okay. When you are speaking about breath and the spaces, and when you are read the lines and all the corners at your poetry as a poet, my Sarah talking about acting. When you act to deliver your message, I remember something because that's one of the things I'm doing as a narrator and voiceover. That's our in between a technique and how you deliver your message. Okay. First thing, how you feel your words, the writings and the arts in general. How you feel your work when you are feeling from your inside, from your heart, from bottom of your heart. And that's the original work from any artist when it came from the bottom of his or her heart. Because if it is not, that will not be an artistic work. That's why as a poet, when you are feeling your words, you have to say it and you practice how to say it correctly with the meaning and the situation of this word or this sentence, okay? That's why I think, I hope, when I'm read my poet today, and somewhere you feel that my voice comes like this, it's like a war. And sometimes like a broken, when something come broken. That's are the real and the effective tools to can deliver your message, not just like a machine. You read it, okay? And I have to say something very important, because it's a skill. It is not it's not like a cup of water. You will drink it and you will be a professional narrator or professional poet to say like the artists. No, sometimes we have a very experts, writers and poets, but they didn't have this skill, okay? They can write, but they cannot read. Like me, I'm right, but I cannot remember. I cannot remember my my writings. There are poets can go without papers and can read all of his works. I don't have this skill. That's
What a wonderful response. I'm so excited. Like, because part of what, I've heard you say is, there's a craft not only to putting it on the page, but there's also a craft to rehearsing it so that you are conveying meaning. And you're really, you're really embellishing also what Masada said, which is, there is a craft to acting, there is a craft to being a musician, and there's also a craft to being a poet, to understand I love how you said the situation of words.
Thank you.
Understanding the situation of words and then practicing how you communicate the situation of words. And that's what we feel. I love that. Thank you so much. This is like a master class in poetry. I don't know if all of our folks are going to enjoy this, but I certainly am. And I hope others do too. I want to get to some more simple questions. I know I've asked you some more complex ones, but I'm wondering when did you all realize that you were poets? Like, when did you know that this was going to be something that you wanted to do with your life? Was there a moment for you?
Not really, actually. I think that I still, I never called myself a poet, but literary critics did. So basically, if you're a poet in the neoliberalistical system, we were now talking about poetry from the really idealistical point of view when we were talking about ambassadors, about kings and everything else. The reality today is quite different, by my opinion, of course. So I was always writing and I was always interested in literature, but it is actually a really hard question if we are actually still considering poetry to be the profession. It depends by the country. And when we were at the beginning talking about these ambassadors and stuff, for example, even in European Union and in Europe, situation country by country is completely different. For example, Slovenia has a really good support of translation. We have Ministry for Culture, but also a specially dedicated public agency for book, which is sponsoring mobility for authors, who is giving scholarship for poets and prose writers, etc. Yeah, the thing is, I have no idea how it actually started. I think with myself, it started with reading, and basically with the socialization that my parents gave it to me, that I was always surrounded with literature. And I think being a poet, it's really important that you read a lot. And this is also when we were discussing techniques and everything else. For example, I think that I'm quite a classical reader. Like we were not mentioning sound poetry, we were not mentioning performative poetry. In the end, also slam poetry, even though I don't like slam poetry personally. So yeah, like for myself, I got this title. I don't know if I actually deserve it, but it is one of my professions or work interests that I'm continue working on, and I will, I think, work on it till the day I die.
Aliash, how are you going to be so silent for so long and then drop all of that on us?
I like to listen.
Such a wonderful response. Thank you. And just thank you for unpacking the complexities, you know, between the nations. This is very important for us to understand about precisely how you are situated in your nation as a writer, and precisely what that means. Thank you. So important. And all of that came out of the simple question is, how did you first start? That's awesome. Does anybody else want to share?
Sure.
When did you know that this was sort of your vocation? Thank you so much, Aliash.
Again, every time I will explain your question.
It's a good question to ask. What does the question mean? Great question.
You know the difference between the languages. I'm afraid sometimes one word can take the question in other side.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, you ask about the strategic moment for us that I looking for myself, that I will be something at this field.
Yes, yeah. When did you? I guess said more plainly, like at what age did you start writing? And when did it become important to you? Okay,
I have a very nice story for my story in writing. I'm starting writing from 2008. Okay. It's not come like once I'm a writer. No, not like that. It came from a project. Okay. I'm working at the Library of Alexandria. And I'm thinking about a project for the special social cases at our country. Like the poor people and all the special cases and the children's over the streets. And I'm thinking with myself, why you didn't write a real project proposal? I'm write down a proposal for my director and take the frame of the proposal frame and form. And named my proposal to be a social science center here, to make a social science center. And the subtitle under this name of this center, Library of Alexandria teach logic culture. These are my subtitle under the Social Science Center. I think at this time, my director, she doesn't want to say what you are writing down. It is not a professional proposal or something like that. Okay, and she put it at her office. and she didn't answer me at all. I think she is a very professional person, and I think she leave me to think again about what I'm doing. When I'm thinking again, I'm just inspired by the subtitle, Library of Alexandria Teach the Logic Culture. And I take that the last two words at this subtitle, Logic Culture, and that's at this moment my first article in my life called Logic Culture, in Arabic, ثقافة المنطق. And from this moment, I'm starting to write. That's my story. I hope that you enjoyed.
Yes, thank you. It's very, yeah. So now, not super long. It's not like, it's not like you started when you were like, I knew I was going to be a writer when I was 5 years old. Like, it's not that kind of story at all.
Not at all. Not at all. No. But you know something? I believe that all the artists in different fields, even writers, about myself, I believe that don't title myself as only poet, because I love to write in many different, as you read my introduction, articles, poets, literature, text. I think all the artists in the different fields, like actors, writers, the roots and the environment you grow up, it's like, the small plant, and all over this, what I can say, situations, improve your plant to grow up. Sometimes you don't know that you have something special to do when you are a child, and once you go through a specific field, oh my God, that's my field, that's my road, and it's came like this.
That's really beautifully said. That's really very beautifully said. I wonder, Milani, if you can share with us your how you were nurtured. What was your environment like that inspired you to become a poet, in lieu of what Basem has shared with us just now?
I'm sorry, because my connection is bad since few minutes. The first, one of the first poems I remember, I was young, and I was leaving my house, the house where I grew up, and I was engraving words on the wood. On the wood in my room, I was engraving words. So I like poetry outside books. I write in books, sure, but I write also in streets or in nature. And the first one was the first poem. I engraved it in my room, and then I was writing poetry. But can you hear me? I'm not sure you hear me. Oh.
Yes, you're fine. We can hear you just fine.
I'm not sure you can hear me, because I can't hear anybody.
Oh yes, we can hear you just fine. Yes.
Okay, that's okay. So then it was like a secret. I didn't dare. I didn't dare to say I write poetry. And then when I had my children, when I was 26, 30, when I began to 30 years old, I dared to express myself thanks to poetry. And it was the first poems published in reviews. And I think becoming a mother helped me to dare, because I dare to have children, so I can dare to write poetry and to say, okay, I write poetry. And that's it. And I think it's poetry and not another, it's not novel or stuff like that, because poetry is really, it's a way to share different arts. You know, I like all arts, so it was very difficult for me to choose one. And I think thanks to poetry, you can work with sounds, and you can work with musicians, and then and also you can, it's visual. I think you were talking about visual poetry or sound poetry. Even if you're not a visual poet, when you write poems on the page, there is a special way to write it. And I think poetry is one of the better way to express all the feelings you can have, because you can use sounds and images and all of the feelings. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, absolutely. I realized that for this particular question, we didn't get to hear from Maysara, but Maysara, I want to thank you for all of the contributions that you've made to the conversation over the course of the time that we spent together. And I want to thank each and every one of you for this.
Thank you.
I
pleasure.
have felt as though what you all have shared today in this conversation is giving us a deeper understanding of how the literary arts, how poetry, how all of it can be used to advance the mission of sister cities and to build connections all over the world. And it's by helping us to better understand what poetry is, who you all as poets are, and by understanding the situations of poets and writers all over the world and from where you draw your inspiration. All of this is helpful in helping us get a better understanding of how poetry can be used by sister cities moving forward. I thank each and every one of you for joining us. Aliash, Melanie, Basem, Maysara, and of course, Anna, who wasn't able to join us in person. And I also want to thank those of you who have been able to join us on a really very wonderful conversation about poetry and so much more. And I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Swaglot, Medical Mutual, Platform Brewery, Ilrish, The Links Inc., Corner 65, US Together, and of course, 12 Literary Arts. My name again is Daniel Gray Kantar, Executive Artistic Director of 12 Literary Arts. And again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. And we have been very happy to join today with all the great poems from all over the world.
Thank you, Daniel. And it's our pleasure to meet all of you today. And we hope to see all of you again in such a great event like our event today. And we hope that we deliver a lot of humanity messages from our event today to all over the world, that poets can help ourselves to be more connected and to fill our community with each others. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. It's Elizabeth. I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
say thank you. Oh, there I am. Thank you so very much. I'm our program director, Daniel. Amazing as always. All of you, like, this is my heart's work. And I appreciate you being here so very much. I hope we can continue working together. I also hope, if there is a real interest in translation, I have a professional network of translators I work with. My husband is a Derrida enthusiast, which we can go down the rabbit hole of translation and culture, but we're not going to. So, you know, if this is something that you really wanted to pursue or talk about further, I'd be happy to. And also just like, pre-Islamic poetry is what I studied in college, and I just love all of you so very much. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, ciao.
And thank you, Daniel. I would like to discover your poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Message me and I'll send you links.
Thank you very much. I will do it.
Very good.